Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it is the live Sunday gaming chat. Cheers. So, we already got two people in that. I knew Chupa would be in here right away. He's always there right at the beginning. So, howdy, Chupa. So we got a lot to cover in this live today. It's gonna be a good one. For those that are here early, our heroes back here on Friday night, they were successful. They defeated the giants in the Hill Giant compound. They basically, well, shouldn't say they finished the dungeon, but they defeated the bosses, and they looted a good percentage of it. They are not done. I don't believe they still want to. Hey, John. So they, I think they still want to clear the bottom cavern area, but they cleared the entire upstairs, defeated the bad guys, etc. So, hello, Mistra. So that is, I'm gonna have to do a separate video probably tomorrow to do that full recap, because it was a full night. And I, as the DM, I got genuinely frustrated with the mechanics of first edition for the first time in my history. I genuinely got really frustrated because it was on one side, my logical brain was saying this is how things should be, but the mechanics and the game rules say they should be this way. So you have to find a balance, but you also don't want to completely piss off your players, because if you're going to throw out the entirety of the rule set to make stuff make logical sense, you're going to piss off your players. So I was genuinely frustrated. I was verbally agitated, because, and I'll go into more of this when I do the actual video, but the bottom line was, in my opinion, when you have several large, and when I say large, I'm talking between 11 feet tall, and cloud giants are, I think it was 18 feet tall. When they decide to enter a room, the way the mechanics are in first edition, they obviously two of them can't occupy a space at the same time, and they're gigantic creatures. Of course, they're giants. So there's got to be room for them to get in. Now, logically, my brain says if they're entering combat, they're motivated and pissed off, which they were, and all that they're facing are humanoids, human-sized humanoids. Hello, Dwayne. So if they want to get into that room, the way I described it to my players is it should be like these giant fuckers are coming in here, and you guys are going to basically be bowling pins. They're just gonna bull rush their way in, their 1,500-pound bodies, and you're just gonna go, you know. That's logically in my brain what should happen. Something like either 21 or 23, something like that, John. And but the first edition rules do not accommodate for that. The way that the players were in the room when they came in, and I'll go into the strategy and all that other stuff. We'll do all that stuff when I do the actual video. But bottom line, they come through, and there just happen to be players on either, I think, both sides of the hallway when they came through. And the way the rule set says, well, they get attacks of opportunity on any of them that run into that room. And because it was not a new initiative round, the giants can't attack until until the next initiative round. My brain says, no, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They come in there, they should be able to start fucking squashing people. That's in reality, that's what they would do. But the rules don't allow for that. So I got genuinely pissed. I got genuinely frustrated with the rules. But I'll go into all that when I do the actual recap. Bottom line was, yeah, so Mistress says logically they can just rush from room to room. 18, well, there wasn't 18 of them at this time. At this time, there was the chief, there was the sub chief, there was the chief's wife, there was a cloud giant. There was 4 of them that came. That was all that was left from all the previous battles and everything. And in my opinion, when they came in, there should have just been little humanoid bodies just flying through the air as they just come bull rushing in. That's how, in my opinion, logically that it would work. But the rules don't, the first edition rules don't allow for that. There's no mechanic for that. Just because they're big creatures that they can just knock people out of the way and stuff. It doesn't work like that. So anyway, bottom line was we had a deep discussion about it at the table, and we came up with what seemed a reasonable and logical compromise between what the rules were saying and what I thought logically should be happening. So exactly, there's less of them, Mistra. You're right. So yeah. So anyway, if I ever decide to write my own make my own role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, my rules will absolutely have rules for, I mean, if you're talking about in proportionate size, and weight advantage, you're going to have, and I say that creature wants to do a bull rush, there's going to have to be some kind of opposing strength check where the players are at a definite disadvantage because of their size, so anyway, well, we worked it out, and but the bottom line was they were successful. They did lose, I think, most of their followers, like most of their hirelings, got creamed. But the hirelings served their purpose. They were the meat shields, basically. And they just happened to be, they didn't plan for this. The Giants' strategy was a sound strategy. They just happened, the players just happened, as a happenstance, had their meat shields, their hirelings, in the right places at the right times. And so it worked out for them. There was a lot of luck, and there was a lot of bad rolling on my part. My rolls were for shit. I was rolling under 10 on my D20. I was rolling under 10 most of the night. I was rolling horribly. So that played in the players' favor. And so it was good. I mean, they had fun. That's the bottom line. They had fun. So anyway, we'll get into that when we do the recap video, into all the details and all that stuff. By the way, Endwalker, crazy not to give anything away per se. Certain someone took over someone's body and were put into someone without details, not to spoil it, was insane. So that was the next thing because I once you were in here, Mister, I was going to bring up Final Fantasy 14. A couple things. Number one, I don't know if you've been, a couple of my past videos, I talked about like EverQuest 2 just had a brand new expansion release. And of course, the servers were all screwed up for the first day, basically, after that, which, as I put in there, all MMOs, when there's a new expansion or a launch, you can never expect the servers to be stable for that first 24-hour period. They just aren't. So my question to you, Mister, is with the Endwalker launch, because I haven't gone on and checked it out to see for myself any forums or anything like that. How smooth was the Endwalker launch, and then how stable were the servers? I do know there were server queues. I saw complaints about queues and stuff, and they're going to compensate players with game time for that, which is the appropriate thing to do. but I'm curious about the stability of the servers and how smooth the launch was. So that was the number one thing. And then the number two thing was I was going to congratulate you as a 14 player because I guess they broke the record for the Steam concurrent players record. I read that today somewhere that Endwalker broke it. So okay, so did hear that the servers were bad to get into, but it went in smooth for Final Fantasy 14. Problem is 4,000 queues are fine, but the error code 2002 codes are a problem because it boots you to the client. So my statement stands true that all MMOs, when there is a new expansion or a launch of the game itself or whatever, the servers for at least the first 24 hours, regardless of what the game is, whether it's Final Fantasy, WoW, EverQuest 2, whatever, they're just generally not. You cannot rely on them for the first 24 hours because they have to work out any bugs that they didn't foresee unless they did a stress test. Now, if they did a true stress test, then they should get some idea of what they're going to expect when they launch and all that. But hey, Jonathan, so they did in Steam numbers and lowest play rates. By the way, a good indicator every platform likely grew, like the website, client, and PS4. So Jonathan is one of the players that is in the Giant campaign. Hey, Bastille. Cool, I got both my moderators in here in case any shitheads decide to come in and try and spam. So Jonathan is in the group. Jonathan, if you just joined, you missed at the very beginning. I was talking about giving them a quick recap of what happened here, that you guys were successful, etc. And I'm going to do a separate video for that and all that. But I did mention that I got very frustrated with the first edition rule set. For the first time as a DM, I got truly frustrated because there was no mechanic that matched my logic. That in my logical brain saying the way, if you have these gigantic epic giants coming in versus what the rules say. And so I talked about yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for my bad rolls, they would have lost a couple player characters. They probably would have if I had rolled even average or above. I think they probably would have lost at least one player, but one player character. But they did lose their hirelings. But. Okay, so I want to get caught up here. They did the only bug is a sound bug. They fixed it with a relog. Otherwise, 14 is incredible. Yeah, I've heard. I mean, the only complaint I heard was the queues, and they're going to compensate. So yeah. 25 million players, but it includes free trials. So they guess around 2.5 to 3 million subs. That's pretty strong. Jonathan, easy. I was this close to bugging out. Oh, so you were gonna. Well, now, mind you, also the magic users, when the giants came in, because we're already fighting some stone giants, and I'll go into the details later. They were already fighting some stone when the bosses came in and tried and flanked them. The magic users in our group fucking took off because there was no way that they could. I don't think they thought that there was any way that they could keep from getting smushed. So these other guys did this basically without the magic user. So yeah. Also, Realm Reborn, where you start AJ, is a slow burn. It's meant for world building, kind of like Vanilla WoW, but not as slow. Heaven's Ward, it takes off. First expansion. Okay. So I do have. So we're carrying two different conversations. So we're talking about the Giants and we're talking about Final Fantasy 14. So I'm going to address the Final Fantasy 14 stuff first here. So I do have one complaint, just because I just wanted to have the client. I didn't download the game, but I wanted to have the launcher ready in case I did decide to go and try 14 again. One of my complaints with Square Enix is it's clumsy. It is clumsy, genuinely, to find where to get the launcher and how to get into the game. There's about 3 different places that you have to log in for Square Enix. There's your Square Enix account, there's the Final Fantasy 14, and then there was something else, and it is genuinely clumsy to get to the point to where you can find where to get the launcher, how to download the game, etc. As separate from the subscription part, So that is they just updated the MOG station. That's the MOG station. So maybe it's better, but yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. That part is genuinely clumsy. But aside from that, that was only when I first got the game way back. That was the only thing that I had a complaint about. So, okay. So going back to Jonathan, seriously, one of the scariest moments in my RPG history. So he's again talking about our giant campaign. So, yeah, I think they genuinely felt more in peril than I knew that they were based upon the numbers that I was looking at. But I think they genuinely felt more in peril than there actually was peril. Had I rolled better, it would have been different. Yeah, if I had rolled better, they could have had a problem. Yeah. So right. And so at one point it was someplace on there amongst this whole process, Mistra, it was saying you got to log in through Steam. And I'm like, I didn't buy it through Steam. I bought it through Square Enix, through the store itself, and just used the launcher. So I'm like, I can't use Steam because I don't have it on Steam. And that was part of where some of the confusion was. But I finally figured it out, how to get the launcher and everything, and if I wanted to resubscribe. But again, genuine overall opinion is it was a clumsy effort to have to try and figure all that out. So now I know from going forward, the MOG station is where I have to start. Okay. But yeah, the point of 14 is the best MMO she's ever played. WoW until Wrath was the second. I would agree with that. Up until as a whole, it brings it down to EverQuest 2, probably second. That's fair. So yeah. But bottom line was we had a blast. We worked through my frustration, and it was fantastic. So now that they have, I'm not gonna say they've cleared the dungeon again, because they haven't, and they know that. So Jonathan, I'm not spoiling anything from him. He knows that the caverns area has not been cleared because of the actual game, the dialogue in the gameplay. He knows that that's not been cleared, so that's not a spoiler. But they know from the map that they've cleared everything up top. From them doing mapping and basically coming all the way around full circle, they know the top is cleared out. So with all that said, again, their strategy as players on how they picked apart the defenses of this compound were the best I've ever seen at this with this module. It was one of the only ways that everybody survived. Had they done it differently, they would not have all survived. There's no way. Just add a few dragons to kill them. A black and red dragon duo. Now, they have fought a black dragon before, but I think it was a juvenile. They've had an encounter with a red dragon, but when they encountered it, it was injured, and they helped the dragon somehow. So the dragon agreed not to eat them. And this is when they were lower level, because they helped the dragon. And then the dragon even repaid their favor when they got into a jam at one point. The dragon happened to be flying up above and came down and basically helped them. And then the dragon said, because dragons can, in first edition, I don't know about other editions, but in first edition, certain dragons, when they get to a certain maturity and all that stuff, they can speak. The dragon said, okay, now we're even. If I meet you again, all bets are off. Basically saying if he runs into them again, you don't have any favors coming, So, yeah, it was not an ancient red dragon is, yeah, that's, you're in deep shit if you run into an ancient red dragon. So, but anyway, so yeah, Friday night was a blast. So what we're gonna do is this coming up Friday, we're gonna play again like normal, and then Saturday we're gonna do what we call a marathon session. And when I say marathon session, we play our Friday night campaign just like we normally do, but which is like 5 hours. Then everybody goes home, gets some rest. We come back usually about 11 in the morning or noon. We start up again, and we play straight through about 12 hours usually, as long as we can go until we get to or the DM loses his voice or something, and when we do that, people bring food, and I get the big cooler out because for more, drinks and stuff like that. And I've got some. If you guys, I didn't bring it. I should have brought it over. I have stuff called glue wine, which is German Christmas wine, and you heat it up. You drink it warm, with like spices and stuff in it. And we're gonna have some. Because it's Christmas time. We're gonna have some glue wine. We're gonna have whatever anybody brings, whatever I've got here, and we're just it's a party for like 12 hours. So, question: how do you feel about balance and writing on early modules? I feel like at least this module would have killed us if we played traditionally. So Jonathan, so a couple things. Number one, this module is actually rated for players 9. The original, if you read the original, not the Against the Giants compilation, but the original, it's for players 9 through 12. You guys aren't 9th level. So that is one thing, and it could be on my end, mister. I don't know. I have gigabit or other internet, so I should not have any issue with buffering, but you never know. It could be on either one of our ends. So number one, yeah, you guys weren't 9th level, but I felt that there were enough of you. You guys were all 8th level, and you had hirelings. I would not have started you down this path if I didn't think it was survivable. Had it didn't been a different group of players, like if it had been a bunch of new players that this was their first time playing Dungeons and Dragons and they started with first edition and they managed to work their way up, or if they did, if whatever weird reason we did player, what do you call it, pre-generated characters, there's no way I would have put them through it. But I had a feeling with you and Niels and Brad and Stesha, and we got a couple newer players, but you guys are seasoned enough to where I figured, well, they're going to be pretty intelligent about how they play this. So there was a lot of factors in how I did this, the way I did it. I genuinely thought that you guys would. I did think you'd lose 1 or 2 characters. I thought that at some point 1 or 2 of them might go down. Not saying they'd be gone forever, but you'd have to go and get them rezzed or whatever. But it was. I think that if you're talking about how it's written and the balance for average parties, it could have been a very deadly module. If you have players, we talked about this in the game, when they open that first grand hall and there's like 30 giants in there feasting or whatever, if the group decides they're just going to try and take them on, that's a death. That's they're going to die. There's no way around that. They're not going to survive that. So then there's other options, burning the place down, etc. But yeah, I would not have had you guys go through it if it had been a different group of players that weren't as experienced. I would not have had you guys go through it yet. But I think it worked out okay. So just imagine an NPC like Xenos from 14 attack them in the campaign. Be like it's over. Well, I don't know who Xenos is, so I'll take your word for it, Mister. Newer modules don't write in certain death rooms, I don't think. Yeah, first edition and even the basic series, there's some deadly shit. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's so Jonathan knows who Frank Mensner is. If any of you don't know who Frank Mensner is, Frank Mensner was one of the guys from the original TSR when they wrote first edition and the basics. Frank was basically on the basic D&D side. His works are legendary when it comes to that. He's still around, and he is considered one of the experts that's still around from the beginning days. And he would have said the same thing. And Tracy Hickman, who was of Dragonlance, who created him and Margaret Weiss created Dragonlance, he has a thing called the Killer Breakfast. If you go to a Comic-Con or whatever, and he's there, he will do a thing called a Killer Breakfast, where you go and he has everybody in the room. Basically, like he gives a scenario and he lets people in the room basically shout out what they would do and so forth. And he tells a story about like, when he played through the original modules as an employee and all that. And, people were being so careful because of how deadly they were and everything. And he would just go in and just kick doors down. And he'd be like, well, even if my character got killed, he goes, I would just roll another character. He goes, but the bottom line is we're there to play and experience the game as our characters would. And we shouldn't be spending 30 minutes trying to argue over whether or not we're going to try and open a door. That was his, outlook on it. So, yeah. Let's see. I want to get caught up here. In D&D, he would be above a 20 DC, maybe 30. Ooh, okay. Wow. In those days, each of the persons had 3 different characters with a stable. Well, yeah, that's true. It was not uncommon in the late 70s, early 80s when I was first starting D&D, because there were so few players, because it wasn't like now. You were genuinely, unless the other nerds knew you and knew that you played D&D, you genuinely kind of tried to keep it quiet because everybody else would just ridicule the shit out of you because you played D&D. So it was kind of an underground thing in the late 70s, early 80s. And as a result, it was hard to find players. And it was very routine that each player at the table would play 2 characters. That was very routine, almost all the time. Because otherwise you wouldn't have enough to like get through any content. You couldn't just, if it was just you and another person and a DM, just the 3 of you, you had to have you had to have at least 4 characters, 2 each, and that might not even be enough. So yeah. Challenge rating, I mean, yeah, I knew what you meant, mister. The game seems to have evolved to more consistent characters. Yeah, I'd say that's a true statement. I love it more now that if you make fun of gaming, you look stupid. It's a complete 180. Yeah. The fact that we have like stuff like Critical Role, and some people have mixed feelings about stuff like Critical Role, but I'm in favor of anything that promotes the hobby. So, except for Mr. Not so consistent. Again, we'll have to take your word for it, mister. Yeah, I can't remember, mister, if you said that do you play pen and paper tabletop D&D, or is all your stuff just video based? I couldn't remember if you said you actually play tabletop or not. So, so anyway, so that was, I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy 14. I wanted to talk about our adventure back here, which we'll go into. The DVs have changed several times through edition. That's true as well. For today's stuff to go through, I have this box set we're going to go through real quick. Hey, Steelguard, how are you? Got to get a little bit of hydration here. Even though it's questionable whether or not beer hydrates you. Some experts say it does. Other experts say, well, it makes you pee too much and actually removes the water from your body, so it actually dehydrates you. But they're not all in agreement. So Bastille says, I still work in a corporate environment where most people smirk when you mention D&D. So I understand that from a couple different ways. Being in the corporate world in the 90s and early 2000s, that was a fact then. And I don't, again, I'm glad that you're mentioning that, because I was genuinely curious about how that would be now. Now, the fact I live in Utah, I live in a highly Mormon area. I live in Utah County. So Utah County is known as Happy Valley because it's mostly Mormons. I am not, but it is mostly Mormons. And where I worked, the city I worked for, it was 99%. So none of them that I worked with had anything to do with D&D. And I got the same reactions when they found out that I was a gamer. I got the weird looks like, what do you mean you're a gamer? You're almost, at that time, you're almost 50 years old. How can you be? It's like, I just wanted to say, take your judgmental ass and go away. Thank you very much. I don't judge you for the shit you do. Please don't judge me for the shit I do, But it still happens. So playing Little Season of Mastery while I watch. Season of Mastery. What is that? I'm gonna have to. I need to start keeping here, I got a notebook here. I need to write stuff down so I can look stuff up. Let's see here. Little Season of Mastery. Because I remember that there was something from the last live, I think, that someone told me about that I needed to look up, and I'd already forgotten. So I got to go back and look at that chat again to see what that was. I got to start writing stuff down. Oh, is it something to do with is it like a live stream of people playing WoW or something like that, Steel? Oh, it's the new season of Classic. Okay, yeah. Now that you've said that, I do remember seeing on like the launcher and stuff, them talking about that becoming a thing, that it was upcoming. It hadn't come out yet, but okay, gotcha. Okay, well, I don't need to look that one up then. But let's go through this guy here. So yeah, that's a scam to make you reset. Well, I'm not giving Blizzard any. I have already made a determination. I will not give Blizzard any of my money until Bobby Kotick is gone. Till that son of a bitch is gone. That arrogant bastard is still there. Now you've got state attorneys generals looking into this whole situation, whether or not they defrauded, because some of the states, I guess, invest in the stock market for their retirement funds and so forth, and Blizzard stock tanked. And one of the questions was, did the fact that he tried to cover up all the controversy and all that, and then it came out and it tanked the stock. And now they're saying they want him gone because that's a lack of leadership and it's affecting the stock price. So now you got states looking into it. So I've made the decision. I ain't giving Blizzard any more of my money until he's gone. That's a promise. So yeah, like Mr. said, if he goes and WoW starts being good, I'll come back. I loved Classic, so I got no problem going back to Classic at all. I don't know if I'd go back to Live, but I definitely would go back to Classic. But I ain't giving him a penny until Kotick is gone. So anyway, so this is Conan the role-playing game. There's two different things. In first edition and second edition, actually it would have been, the modules came out during second edition. There were Conan the Barbarian modules. There was two of them, CB1 and CB2. And I do have them. I just didn't dig them out for this. But I'm just trying to differentiate between this stuff. So those use the traditional, those are for use for the traditional first edition, second edition game rules for D&D. This is a standalone. I did, Mister. I did, and we'll get into that in a second because that is another good conversation. So this is a standalone RPG that came out by TSR, same company. So it was kind of like, I'm trying to remember the timing, but they had those modules for first edition, for regular D&D, and then they came out with this, and it was almost like they were competing against themselves. But I think they did okay with it. They didn't produce too much for this, if I remember correctly. So, but anyway, so this is based upon the original Conan, not from the movies, but the original Conan in the books that were written by. I want to make sure I get his name right. See if it has it here. Let's see here. Should have. Wow, they don't even have it under the like for the trademark and all. I thought for sure it would say based upon the works of so and so. Anyway, I'm sure I'll run across it here. I hope at some point. So let's see here. We got 1, 2, 3. So these are the modules that came out after the game came out. Now I have two. I only have one box, but I got two sets of everything because I bought a couple collections at one point. Hey, long shot. Yeah, TSR Conan. Yep, we're gonna go through it right now. Robert E. Howard. There you go. That is correct. That is the name of the author. Yes. So again, I've got two sets of this stuff, but I've got it all in one box because I only have one box. When I bought a couple collection years ago, I think I got all the guts for one, but it didn't have a box, and so I've just got everything in one box. So there might be some duplication here. So you have this is basically a template for a character sheet. They have a blank one on the back, and this kind of was to give people an idea of how to do it. And they used Conan, the Cimmerian, which is what he was, just so they could see how it was used and all that. And then they give you a blank one there, and they give you a couple other blank ones, I think, too. This, I believe, is a map of Hyboria. Yep. So this is the Hyborian world. And this is actually beautiful. So there you go. That's got some beautiful artwork. If I had more room, because I have two of these maps, I think I could hang one up. Just because I think it looks cool, and still have one for playing on if we ever decide. But then they give you some more of these cards for character sheets and so forth. And then, so I got two of everything. So there's the master reference sheets that give like the rules and stuff, the basics, all the tables, combat sequences, all that kind of stuff. So they give you that. And then they give you the World of Hyboria, which is basically like the glossography to tell you all about the world and the places in it, and that's what it looks like on the inside. And then it's even got it even has some creatures in here with their stat blocks and all that. So you've got like ghouls, golden serpents. They have a gray ape. That sounds almost like from the cartoon from the purple gorilla in that cartoon back in the 70s and 80s called Grape Ape. Let's see here. And then you actually have the rule book itself. So you have the rule book, you have the glossography. There's some, of course, artwork in here. So, yeah, it's another RPG set in the actual Conan Hyborian setting. Then you also got a reference guide, which I'm not sure exactly what the difference was. Let's see here. Oh, this looks like it's got the spells and stuff in it. Yeah, this looks like spells and stuff like that. And then you got charts and tables at the back. So there's a lot of content in this box set for these. Yeah, see, I've got a second map right there. So, yeah, I got 2 full maps. I got two of everything. Yeah, so that's it. Everything else is duplication. And of course, you get the old requisite RPG stuff like I've gone over before with the other box sets. But yeah, everything is here to do an entire role-playing experience in the Hyborian world setting. Then they produced, if I remember, this was the only 3 that they produced. They produced 3 modules. So this was CN1. This is Conan the Buccaneer. Now, mind you, so this artwork here, this is Clyde Caldwell. Clyde Caldwell is probably my favorite old school D&D artist that did all the, a lot of the art for their products and so forth. Clyde Caldwell stuff was just incredible. I'm not sure who the artist is on this one. This is CN2 Conan the Mercenary. Different artist. But, and I do not know if these, I don't know if they're a part of a series. I don't know if you do one like CN1 and then it leads you on to CN2, or if these are all standalone. So this one I've bagged right here. It needs to be boarded. This one is still in the original wrap. I'm not gonna say shrink. It's not really shrink wrap, but it's in the original plastic. It even has the original sticker on it. And this one is Conan the Triumphant, CN3. And again, that looks like it's the same, could be the same artist. Oh, this is Boris. So Boris was the one who did a lot of the Conan artwork for the original, for the books and stuff, for the novels and stuff, if I remember correctly. I don't think this other one's Boris. No. So only this one is Boris right here. So they did these 3 modules. That's kind of cool. I got the one with the Boris art. It says 1984. I got the one with the Boris art still in the original wrapper. That's actually pretty. I could look up and see if that's worth anything. That might be worth something. So anyway, that is the Conan box set. So like I said, I keep a lot of my stuff as source material for my D&D campaign. If I decided at some point that the characters in my campaign somehow through magic means or something were able to be transported to Hyboria, let's just, I'm speaking hypothetically here, I would have the source material that they would go from the world of Greyhawk, and next thing you know, they're in the world of Hyboria. And then here I got the source material for it. And of course, I've got all those other box sets back there, other worlds and stuff like that, you could do the same thing as a DM. You can do, all of a sudden they come upon, a portal, or an evil mage who decides to send them off into another world. There's all, you could write it any way you wanted to. But I love having source material if I ever decided that I wanted to do something crazy like that. Hey, Colin, cheers. So, yeah. So, there we go. So, we've covered the quick recap on our campaign back here. We've gone over the Final Fantasy XIV launch for their expansion, which sounds like it went very well. We went through the box set. Let's turn it over to you guys. And if there's any questions about anything gaming related, whatever, go ahead and throw it down in there. We can talk about it. So, now, Mr. asked if I played the Conan MMO. So originally, I want to say that was Conan. I can't remember the first title, but they changed it to Conan Unchained at a certain point, because it was when it was in development, the Conan MMO was marketed as the first truly MMO geared at adults with mature content, meaning that the player models, the models of the characters in there, could be completely nude. They could take all their clothes off. There was drinking, there was gambling. If I remember correctly, there was even prostitution, like in-game prostitution. There might have even been some kind of weird drug use. There was like some kind of in the game, there was some kind of like hallucinogenic or something. I could be off on, but I kind of remember that. But anyway, so it was marketed as this, there was no barriers to adult content, and it was definitely marketed for adults, not kids. And that was their big selling point, was that you got all these adults that want a true gaming experience where you have barbarians and stuff like that. They're not going to be going to a tavern to drink Kool-Aid or drink a healing potion or some type of buff drink. No, they're going to want ale, and they're going to want to gamble, and they're going, and there might be nudity, and there might, so that was how it was marketed. And it was out for a while, and something happened, if I remember correctly, where they changed the title, and they did some things differently. I don't think they took too much out or whatever, but they changed some things, and they changed it to Conan Unchained, and then they kind of did a relaunch type of a deal. Mistress says it sucks. So I tried it. I was all on board, because the idea of being able to be a barbarian and go into a tavern and drink ale and gamble and do all this on top of after going out and killing monsters and all that stuff, it's like, that's a role-playing experience, that appealed to me. I was like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. Here's the thing that got me with that game, why I could not play it anymore. I tried as much as I possibly could to get used to the combat interface. Now, Mistra, if you're the only one in here that's played it, you're the only one that can relate to this. You had to do it was not like your traditional keyboard and mouse with toolbars MMO, where you have a bunch of different actions on toolbars to do all of your attacks and all that. It had a weird like grid like this with arrows, and to do certain maneuvers, you had to do like left arrow, up arrow again, down arrow. You had to do all these weird combinations to do these certain moves, and then you had curved like arrows too. Yeah, I mean, it was fucking weird, and I could not do it. I was like, you know what? I am never going to be able to do this. It just, yeah. I mean, there were good quests in it. the beginning area of Tortage. I think it was Tortage, was what it was called. The island, it was like on an island, and that was where you did kind of your tutorial, the beginning of the game and all that. I thought that was done pretty good. With the storylines and all that stuff. But the combat, kiss my ass, I could not do it. No way in hell could I do it. I tried and tried and tried. Mister says the curve shit was weird. Yeah, you had to just do all these weird combinations to do, and it would like, I'm just trying to remember, like you had something on your UI that would say like if you wanted to do this swing attack or whatever. Exactly. They wanted to be different, Mistra. For some reason, they just thought we got to do something completely different that no one's ever done before. So let's just do something that most people can't do, that aren't going to feel comfortable with, or whatever. Who knows? Now, mind you, it might be easier for people that like to play with a controller. And I can't remember if it's also like on PlayStation or Xbox or any of that stuff. But on PC for me, nope, couldn't do it. So yes, so for that reason alone, that's why I just couldn't play it anymore. You know, I gave it a good shot, but I just couldn't do it anymore. So, let's see. Yeah, if there's an MMO out there, pretty much I've tried it, except for why can't I think of it? Not Anarchy Online. Damn, the one in space where you're in a ship, and you were at the beginning of the game, when that game started, you were only in your ship. You could never get out of your ship. It was just you in your ship. I can't think of it. Damn. Anyway, that game I never tried it. But the idea of never being able to leave my ship never appealed to me. I wanted the idea of being. I have no problem having EVE Online. That's it. I had no problem being in a ship and ship combat and harvesting in space and doing all those things. And I knew it had corporations and a lot of trade, player trade, and everything was player based and all that sounded great and everything. But the idea of not being able to get out of my ship and go down to the surface and have adventures on the surface or whatever just didn't make any sense to me. I know now that there was an expansion where they added, you could get out of your ship, but I believe that's only on space stations. Like you would land your ship at a space station, dock at a space station. You could get out and do stuff in the space station and whatever, and then you get back in your ship. So, I know Star Trek Online, which I do have. I tried it. Star Trek Online had both space and land-based stuff, but there was something about that that one didn't do it for me either. I did try it though. The other thing, that gameplay gets much better once you unlock level 60 skills in 14. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. The combat in 14, I enjoyed. I had no problem with the combat and all that. I thought it was kind of weird that you could do one character could do any and all jobs, and that kind of was kind of knocked me back a little bit, trying to get my head around that, So, let's see. So while I got everybody, I got a few people here. Yeah, the combat I had no problem with the combat at all, Mister. I actually was enjoying the combat. So, and I think I enjoyed the fishing mechanic. If you to do fishing in that game, if I remember, that was actually done very well. That was actually a lot of fun. Very few games get that right, so that was actually pretty good. So I thought that what was the other one I jumped back into here? I loaded up Star Wars: The Old Republic, that MMO. I reloaded it because they're coming out December 14th. So like in a week, I guess, something like a little over a week. There's an expansion coming out for that. Now that's a free-to-play game unless you want to subscribe. And of course, I was a founder for that, collector's edition, all that. So I decided I'll just jump back into the free-to-play part just to see where my character's at. if I decide maybe I want to try out the new expansion or something like that. And they did server merges while I was gone, and damn near every one of my characters I got to rename it. And I had some of my favorite names reserved, on my characters and everything. And because they did freaking merges, what happens is they merge if the person that so the server that's being merged onto that's receiving people from other servers, if somebody has that name there, they get the priority to keep their name. If you're being merged to that, then you have to change your name if you have the same name. And it sucks because I was a founder with that game. I even have the founder title, like for your character, because if you were like a beta tester and you pre-ordered and you got like the collector's, whatever it was, you got the founder title. And it's like, yeah, but all my names are fucked up now. Like, I tried different variations. It's like that just. I'm sorry, but I get hung up on that kind of shit. I have certain names I want to be able to get, and if I can't, it sucks. So server merges, for that reason, server merges suck. Yeah, unless you happen to be on the predominant server from the get-go, meaning that you'll always have priority for your name if anybody gets merged into you. And so I heard Pathfinder Online is finally shutting down. I supported the Kickstarter for many years ago. Yeah, I never tried Pathfinder Online. Was that a true MMO, or was that one of those where like it was like an MMO light where you could get online with like a certain number, like say 32 people per server or something like that? Or was it a true MMO with like thousands of people per server, that type of thing? Yep. They should not merge servers that gave bonuses low pop servers instead. They should give bonuses to low pop servers instead. Incentives over merges always. Once again, Mistra, we find ourselves in agreement. You're just speaking plain logic right there. That's why 14 never does a merge. If a low population world, as it's called, you get double XP only until level 80. Now that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Then you don't have people investing all this time and energy into something with a name that they're attached to, and then they get screwed out of it. The only one that it's worked out okay for me on is EverQuest 2, because on EverQuest 2 I've always been on Antonio Bale, which is the predominant server. So there have been mergers, but they've always merged everything into Antonio Bale. So I've been able to keep most of my names. So with that, I was pretty happy. Let's see. So I'm thinking of doing one of two things. So I want to do a series of Let's Play videos in EverQuest 2, because that's what I'm playing right now. So you guys chime in here, tell me what you think I should do. My main on Antonia Bale, my main character, his name is Tully, Tully, Tully Lightfoot. And Tully is level 92. The max now is 125. So I have to level from 92 to 125. But you also have trade skills are completely separate. He's level 98 on trade skills, still also 125 for trade skills. I could do Let's Play starting with him where he is now on his path to leveling up to 125. Or I could start a brand new character and show the character creation, customization, all that. And then we could have a ride where we just go from level 1 all the way through as long as I want to go. We could do one or two. So which would you guys prefer to see? Would you prefer to see the established character go from like level 92 to 125? Do from brand new so we get more videos. See, I'm leaning that way because I think everybody would like to see like the character creation and the customization and everything, but some people may not. Maybe some people might want to see higher level content. and it'll just take a long time to get to that higher level content with a new character. But I'm leaning towards a new character. So so far I've got 1 vote from Mistra for brand new, and I make 2 because that's what I want to do. But we'll see. And I mentioned before that Nathan Napalm, he's doing the same thing. He started with a new character. He's showing all the group content. He joined a guild, and they're doing group content, all the dungeons and all that other stuff. I'm gonna show the solo aspect of the game for people that like to solo, because you can do EverQuest 2. You can do everything solo pretty much. You can even do certain dungeons as long as you take a mercenary. You can hire an NPC mercenary to go with you, like a healer, pocket healer, or whatever, and you can do it. So I'm gonna do the solo experience. So Colin, brand new character. Okay, that's 3. So we're probably going to be going that route unless I start seeing some other people wanting to see the higher level stuff. So, but that's good to see. At least I got the 2 of us, you 2 guys plus myself, that want to do the new stuff. So, yeah, it's a fun game. And I remember the times where I left EverQuest 2 were because something else came out and I wanted to give it a shot. And in the back of my mind, I was always worried, man, if I put more time into this and then they shut the game down, they sunset the game, I'm going to be pissed, you know? And I would always go back to WoW because I'm like, well, they're not going to sunset WoW, you know? I was like, I could, take comfort in that. I don't know if I could say that anymore about WoW. They might sunset it in 10 years if things keep going downhill. Who knows? But I'm not going to worry about that anymore. I'm not going to worry about it because the original EverQuest has been going for like, I don't know, 20 years or more. And it's still going. They're still releasing expansions for the original EverQuest. So I figured, well, if they're doing that with that one, they're probably going to do it with the second one too. So, Steelguard, is EverQuest 2 free to play? Yes, there is a free to play. I think you can download the game for free. There's no on Steam. I think it's free. You just download the game and you can play without a subscription. Yes, from level 1. You're limited on certain things that you can and can't do. Like I don't think you get as much bag storage. There's certain like the broker, to sell stuff on the broker. I think you're limited to the number of items you can sell on the broker. I mean, there's limited, obviously, because they want you to subscribe. But you can play free to play. People do it all the time. So, yeah, you're just limited on certain things. So, right, and yeah, Ultima Online is still getting updates. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. I don't think 14 is in any danger of sunsetting. As far as I'm concerned, now 14 is the number 1, in my opinion. They are the number 1 MMO in the world. They took the spot from WoW at some point. I don't know when it happened, but if you go by like just how people view the game and the reviews and the level of support that the game is given, the player happiness, if you just wanted to rate player happiness and that type of thing, I'm without question, 14 is the top MMO as far as I'm concerned. So, and I'm not just saying that, because of you, Mistra. In my opinion, I think even though I'm not playing it, even though it's not, the time I tried, it wasn't necessarily my cup of tea. There's no way of denying the level of quality and the way that they treat the game and all that stuff. So, I think it happened during Shadowlands. I probably would agree with that. I follow, some of you guys probably follow him. I follow Heel versus Babyface on YouTube, and he was a huge 14 player. I think he still plays. I don't know. He doesn't put a lot of videos out of that kind of stuff anymore. He does a lot of that. He does a lot of reviews of like comic book TV shows and comic book movies and stuff like that. Like, he does Doctor Who. He does like all of the what is it, the WB or the CW shows like Batgirl and all. He does all those kind of reviews and stuff like that. And he's still a gamer. He used to do WoW videos a lot too, but he quit WoW. He doesn't have anything to do with that anymore. But anyway, so I remember when heel versus babyface, when he was as the guy's name is Az, that his channel is heel versus babyface, but Az is the guy that does it. I remember when he was playing Shadowlands, and that was what made me try the game, was him. So yes, and he was a WoW veteran, yes. But I remember his videos about Shadowlands, and he talked specifically about, he might have even done some videos where he did a comparison with Shadowlands versus Battle for Azeroth. I think he did BFA versus Shadow, because they kind of launched around the same time. I want to say that's a thing, that he did some comparison videos, and Final Fantasy 14 was like way up here on like pluses, and I mean he had some areas in that WoW was better, but most of it was all Final Fantasy 14 that was better, if I remember correctly. So, anyway, so we're over the hour mark here. I want to preserve my voice a little bit I want to do that recap tomorrow. So I think, oh, and Steelguard, I guess that's your vote saying from level 1. That's your vote for the video too. So that's overwhelmingly, I mean, if you can call 4 votes overwhelmingly, I guess we'll do a level 1 character. Warfronts is when I opened my eyes to how bad it had gotten when you receive better gear with Mythic Dungeons from losing Warfronts. Yeah, I mean, once they got into all the keys and stuff with Mythic 0, Mythic 6, Mythic 8, I mean, it was like, yeah, they lost me. That's why, but Classic was what brought me back. The idea was Classic. Wow, I was like, oh, this is awesome. But yeah, now they're not getting my money till Bobby Kotick's gone. So. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, this was another full packed live here. We talked about a lot of different stuff. You guys, those of you guys that are regulars here, you're getting to see a lot of the stuff from my collection. You're getting to see a lot of these old box sets and stuff like that. So, Island Expeditions were terrible. They were just, I think I did 1 or 2. See ya, Chupa. I think I did 1 or 2 island. I just, yeah, that was, yeah, yep. All right, guys. So tomorrow I will work on the recap video for the giant thing, and I'm going to be starting my Let's Play level 1. I think that'll do it. Until next time, guys, we will catch you on the flip side.